Welcome to Indonesia Security Focus, your essential briefing on the evolving security landscape across the Indonesian archipelago. I'm your host, and today we'll be examining the critical security developments of April 2025. This month has been defined by escalating tensions in the South China Sea following China's seizure of Sandy Key in the Spratly Islands on April 27, raising significant concerns for Indonesia's maritime security interests. Meanwhile, on the domestic front, President Prabowo Subianto's signing of Law No. 3 of 2025 on April 17 has expanded the Indonesian National Armed Forces roles to include cyber threat management and civilian institution positions, sparking considerable public debate over civilian oversight. In the next 20 minutes, we'll cover the month's key security incidents, government responses, regional dynamics, with a special focus on Indonesia's cybersecurity challenges, where experts are now warning of AI-driven attacks, and provide our outlook for the coming month based on my comprehensive risk assessment matrix. April 2025 presents a multifaceted security environment in Indonesia, characterized by a notable combination of external pressures and internal policy shifts. While the absence of major terrorist incidents continues to reflect Indonesia's success in counterterrorism efforts, with zero open terrorist attacks since 2023, according to BNPT data, the country faces intensifying challenges in the maritime domain and cyberspace. The South China Sea disputes have reached a new intensity with China's actions in the Spratly Islands, creating potential implications for Indonesia's territorial interests and economic activities in the region. Domestically, the implementation of the revised TNI law represents a significant shift in civil-military relations, with expanded roles for the armed forces in areas previously under civilian oversight, a development that has triggered protests under various banners, including Free Palestine, concerns about former President Jokowi's credentials, and calls regarding Papua. Cybersecurity remains a critical vulnerability, with Indonesia ranked 49th globally in the National Cybersecurity Index 2024, as the nation continues implementing the Personal Data Protection Law, UUPDP, and building defensive capabilities against increasingly sophisticated threats, including potential AI-driven attacks. These developments occur against the backdrop of public demonstrations focused on both international solidarity movements and domestic governance issues, highlighting the complex interplay between external and internal security dynamics shaping Indonesia in 2025. And the terrorism and extremism domain, April 2025 maintained Indonesia's positive trend with no significant terrorist attacks or plots reported. This aligns with Indonesia's improved ranking in the Global Terrorism Index 2025, which now places the country in the low-impact category, a significant achievement for a nation that previously faced multiple active terrorist threats. The Badan Nasional Penanggulangan Terorisme reports that Indonesia has not experienced open terrorist attacks since 2023, crediting this success to effective de-radicalization programs and community engagement initiatives like the April distribution of aid to de-radicalization partners in Depok. However, security agencies remain vigilant about online radicalization, with platforms like social media and online games identified by BNPT as potential vectors for extremist narratives that represent an evolving, silent threat. Civil unrest manifested primarily through Free Palestine protests, expressing solidarity with Palestinians and criticizing the government's stance on Gaza evacuations. Additional demonstrations questioned former President Jokowi's undergraduate diploma authenticity and addressed Papua issues, calling for the closure of foreign companies like Freeport and military withdrawal. These protests, primarily in urban centers involving diverse groups including students and activists, while generally peaceful, reflect underlying social tensions across multiple issues. On the public safety front, the Indonesian National Police successfully conducted Operasi Katupat 2025 from March 26 to April 8, significantly reducing traffic accidents through coordinated traffic management during the Eid al-Fitr holiday, an operation personally acknowledged by the Kapolri as successful. Meanwhile, the National Narcotics Agency executed a major operation in Aceh Besar on April 24, destroying 12 tons of marijuana in their first major operation of 2025, involving 158 personnel from multiple agencies. Digital security challenges persisted, with experts warning of AI-driven attacks on the horizon following incidents like the 2024 ransomware attack on the National Data Center. Indonesia currently ranks 49th globally on the National Cybersecurity Index, indicating areas for continued improvement, particularly in implementing advanced security technologies like core switches in the securities industry. The Indonesian government continued implementing the Personal Data Protection Law UUPDP, effective since October 2024, requiring companies to appoint dedicated data protection officers and adhere to strict data handling protocols, a significant regulatory advancement compared to previous fragmented approaches. This represents a new era of personal data protection for the nation's digital landscape. This forms part of a broader cybersecurity strategy outlined in Presidential Regulation Number 47 of 2023, guiding efforts to enhance the nation's digital resilience through structured governance. The most significant institutional development was President Prabowo Subianto's signing of Law No. 3 of 2025 on the Indonesian National Armed Forces on April 17. This revised TNI law expands the military's roles to include cyber threat management and permits military personnel to hold positions in civilian institutions, marking a notable shift in civil-military relations. The law has sparked protests and public debate over potential implications for civilian supremacy in governance. Concerns highlighted during ratification when DPR insisted the law upholds democratic principles. Law enforcement agencies demonstrated effective operational capabilities, with Polri's Operasi Ketupat 2025 ensuring security during the Eid al-Fitr holiday, an operation that received direct appreciation from the Kapolri for its smooth implementation. The BNN's coordinated drug enforcement operation in Aceh Besar on April 24, their first major operation of 2025, highlighted interagency cooperation in addressing narcotics trafficking by deploying 158 personnel across multiple agencies. Looking forward, the Ministry of Communication and Digital is advancing its Horizon Pembangunan Digital Indonesia 2025-2030 plan, with initiatives including training 1 million cybersecurity professionals by 2030 in collaboration with private sector partners including Indosat and MasterCard. The Indonesian Army is also planning equipment modernization, combining upgrades with new acquisitions to meet operational requirements, a focus confirmed by TNI-AD. Regional tensions have significantly escalated in the South China Sea following China's seizure of Sandy Key in the Spratly Islands on April 27, as reported by multiple sources, including Bloomberg and BBC. This action prompted the Philippines to assert its presence on nearby sandbanks, creating a tense standoff in an area dotted with military outposts. China has formally claimed sovereignty over the disputed reef, while the United States has expressed support for the Philippines, raising concerns about potential military escalation in waters vital to global commerce. This latest confrontation follows China's increased military patrols in the area since late March 2025, as documented by Reuters. While Indonesia is not directly involved in this specific dispute, the situation demands close monitoring given Indonesia's own territorial interests in the region, particularly around the Natuna Islands, where Indonesian and Chinese claims have previously overlapped. According to the South China Morning Post, these developments could impact Indonesia's maritime security, territorial integrity, and economic interests in its exclusive economic zone. Especially concerning given that most South China Sea confrontations involve fishing vessels and maritime militia rather than conventional military forces. Indonesia continues to maintain robust security relationships with key partners, including the United States, Australia, and Japan, focusing on maritime security and counterterrorism cooperation. These bilateral partnerships, strengthened through joint exercises and intelligence sharing, provide Indonesia with valuable support for addressing regional security challenges, including territorial disputes and transnational crimes like piracy and illegal fishing. As an ASEAN member, Indonesia plays a significant role in regional security dialogues and multilateral cooperation mechanisms, maintaining adherence to international agreements that promote stability. The country's response to the South China Sea tensions will likely balance its commitment to ASEAN solidarity with its national interests, while seeking to prevent further escalation that could destabilize the region, a delicate diplomatic challenge for Indonesia's security establishment. Cybersecurity has emerged as a critical vulnerability for Indonesia in 2025, with the nation facing increasingly sophisticated digital threats. The National Cybersecurity Index currently ranks Indonesia 49th globally out of 160 countries assessed, reflecting both progress made and significant challenges that remain in securing the country's digital infrastructure, a position that places Indonesia in the middle tier of cyber-ready nations. The vulnerability of Indonesia's systems was underscored by a 2024 ransomware attack on the National Data Center, as documented by Compaspedia, which highlighted weaknesses in critical information infrastructure protection and resulted in significant data breaches and service disruptions. Security experts now warn of a new generation of AI-driven cyber attacks targeting both government systems and private enterprises, potentially compromising sensitive data and disrupting essential services. A threat landscape that has evolved dramatically since the implementation of Indonesia's first comprehensive cybersecurity regulations. The government's response includes the ongoing implementation of the Personal Data Protection Law (UUPDP), which establishes a comprehensive framework for safeguarding personal information through mandatory data protection officers and strict compliance requirements. Additionally, the National Cybersecurity Strategy outlined in Presidential Regulation No. 47 of 2023 provides a detailed roadmap for enhancing Indonesia's cyber resilience through institutional coordination, technical capacity building, and public-private partnerships, a significant advancement from previous fragmented approaches. A significant government initiative involves collaboration with private sector partners, including Indosat and MasterCard, to train 1 million cybersecurity professionals by 2030. As reported by Liputan 6, addressing the critical talent gap in this specialized field where Indonesia faces a shortage of qualified personnel. Technological improvements include the deployment of advanced core switches in critical sectors like the securities industry to enhance network security and threat detection capabilities. Despite these positive steps, challenges remain in harmonizing regulations across sectors and ensuring compliance with security standards throughout the digital ecosystem. The recent revision of the TNI law, which expands the military's role in cybersecurity, introduces new questions about the division of responsibilities between military and civilian institutions in cyberspace defense, a debate that reflects broader tensions in civil-military relations. Looking ahead, Indonesia will need to prioritize international cooperation, public awareness programs, and proactive threat mitigation strategies to build a resilient digital ecosystem capable of supporting the nation's economic and social development. The effectiveness of these measures will significantly influence Indonesia's security posture in an increasingly digitized world where cyber attacks have become as threatening as physical security breaches. Several concerning patterns have emerged in Indonesia's security landscape this April. First, the escalation of tensions in the South China Sea represents a worrying trend that could have direct implications for Indonesia's territorial integrity and maritime interests. China's increased assertiveness, evidenced by the April 27 seizure of Sandy Key and formal sovereignty claims reported by Bloomberg, suggests the potential for similar actions closer to Indonesian waters, particularly around the resource-rich Natuna region, where previous incidents have occurred. According to Reuters, China's military patrols in the South China Sea have intensified since March 29, 2025, indicating a systematic pattern of territorial assertion. In the cyber domain, the continued sophistication of digital threats, including the projected rise of AI-driven attacks warned about by security experts, presents a significant challenge for Indonesia's still developing cybersecurity infrastructure, ranked 49th globally. The convergence of these physical and digital security threats creates a complex security environment requiring integrated response strategies across military, law enforcement, and civilian agencies. A challenge addressed in part by the expanded TNI role under Law No. 3 of 2025. Early warning signals include the increasingly militarized responses to territorial disputes in the South China Sea, which could lead to miscalculations and unintended escalations, as evidenced by the standoff between Chinese and Philippine forces at military outposts near Sandy Key. Additionally, the public debate surrounding the expanded role of the TNI in civilian affairs highlights potential tensions in civil-military relations that bear close monitoring. Concerns documented by UMJ regarding public fears about democratic oversight. Resilience factors strengthening Indonesia's security posture include the effective counterterrorism framework, which has prevented major attacks since 2023, according to BNPT data, and the ongoing implementation of the Comprehensive Data Protection and Cybersecurity Regulations under Presidential Regulation No. 47 of 2023. However, the effectiveness of these measures depends on continued institutional coordination and public cooperation. The pattern of public protests across multiple issues, from Free Palestine demonstrations to questions about former President Jokowi's credentials and Papua concerns, suggests underlying social tensions that could manifest in further demonstrations or civil unrest, if not adequately addressed by government policy responses. For the next 30 days, we anticipate the South China Sea will remain a critical flashpoint, with potential for further diplomatic or military incidents, as regional powers assert their competing claims. Based on the April 27 seizure of Sandy Key and subsequent developments reported by multiple international sources, Indonesia should prepare for possible spillover effects, particularly around the Natuna Islands, which may require enhanced maritime surveillance and diplomatic engagement to prevent unauthorized activities in Indonesia's exclusive economic zone. Cybersecurity threats are projected to increase, potentially targeting critical infrastructure or government systems. According to expert analysis in Turdo's cybersecurity projections, Indonesia faces heightened risk of AI-driven attacks in 2025, necessitating accelerated implementation of security measures. The ongoing implementation of the Personal Data Protection Law, UUPDP, effective since October 2024, will face continued challenges as organizations work to achieve compliance with its comprehensive requirements for data protection officers and security protocols. Public demonstrations related to both international and domestic issues may continue, particularly surrounding the expanded TNI role under Law No. 3 of 2025 signed on April 17, and ongoing international conflicts generating solidarity movements, a pattern consistent with the Free Palestine protests documented in April 2025. From a risk assessment perspective, our threat matrix identifies South China Sea conflicts as presenting a high likelihood and high impact threat, warranting priority attention. Cyber attacks showing high likelihood with medium impact potential, requiring technical solutions, while public unrest carries medium likelihood and medium impact possibilities, necessitating political engagement. Key monitoring priorities should include developments in the South China Sea, particularly Chinese activities near Indonesian waters, as reported by regional news sources. Cyber threat intelligence with focus on critical infrastructure vulnerabilities identified in the wake of the 2024 National Data Center attack, and the implementation effectiveness of the revised TNI law, especially regarding its cybersecurity provisions and civil-military relations, as debated in recent public discourse. As we conclude our April 2025 security briefing, several key developments stand out. The escalating maritime tensions in the South China Sea following China's April 27 seizure of Sandy Key, the significant expansion of TNI's Roll Through Law No. 3 of 2025, signed on April 17, and the persistent cybersecurity challenges facing a nation ranked 49th globally in cyber readiness. Our analysis indicates Indonesia's security landscape faces a complex threat environment requiring integrated responses, from maritime security enhancements to cyber defense investments. We leave you with two questions to consider. How might the expanded military role in cybersecurity affect Indonesia's overall digital resilience, given the institutional rebalancing between TNI and civilian agencies? And what diplomatic approach should Indonesia take to best protect its interests amid escalating regional tensions, particularly regarding the resource-rich Natuna region, where previous Chinese incursions have occurred? This has been Indonesia Security Focus. Until next month, stay vigilant and informed.